Hey friend, let's talk about dating apps. You've probably used one and maybe you're on 3 right now. And if you're anything like most of us, you're both grateful they exist and also exhausted by what they've become. So today's episode is a quick, no fluff conversation about what's hard about dating apps and how that shows up differently for men and women. Because dating apps aren't all bad, but they are changing the way that we relate to each other, and not always in ways that help us create the kind of relationships we actually want. Throw out the rules, forget the cliches. This isn't about the perfect profile or the perfect date. It's about real connection. It's time to strip away the masks, shed the stories, and drop those old patterns that no longer serve you. Tired of dating advice that doesn't fit? So are we. Welcome to Stripped, Drop Your Patterns, where conscious dating isn't about following a script. It's about embracing your whole self and attracting the kind of love that sets your soul on fire. I'm Rachel J., the connection coach and your host. Let's get real. All right, let's start here with the cold hard truth. Dating apps are not actually designed to help you fall in love. I know. They're designed to keep you on the app and engaged with the app, not necessarily with a real human that you could potentially end up engaged to. So every swipe, every match, every little notification, these are all actually part of a carefully engineered system meant to hook your attention, trigger a dopamine hit, and keep you coming back for more. So that means that you're not just looking for love, you're being managed by an algorithm that rewards short-term engagement over long-term connection. So what happens when the system doesn't deliver what you're hoping for? Swipe fatigue. You've probably heard of this. So swipe fatigue is that specific burnout that comes from, seeing the same profiles over and over, feeling invisible after putting in actual effort, matching with people who never respond, or just never really feeling any real spark. So let's talk about how all of this lands really differently for men and for women. So for men, it can feel like shouting out into the void, and it can be really disheartening. Now, we talked briefly last time about the effect of compounded rejection. That refers to, having heard no multiple times throughout our lives, even starting from childhood. We're just doing a recap here. If you heard no a lot from a parent or caregiver when you wanted something from them and the answer was no for one reason or another, it just felt hurtful. And then going into adolescence, hearing no or being laughed at or judged or some other awful reaction to putting yourself out there and maybe, expressing a crush in somebody, expressing feelings for your crush. Let me take that back. That can reinforce that feeling of, something's wrong with me. Somebody's telling me no, something's wrong with me. And then getting into early adulthood and having that be our framework for hearing no. And that is where we get compounded rejection and that feeling that no is about us. Some part of us is inadequate and being rejected. So going back to how for men being on the dating apps can really build upon that compounded rejection, particularly men will use dating apps rather than putting themselves out there in the world, physically being in front of somebody and expressing interest, because being behind a computer screen acts as a shield. It feels less high stakes to put yourself out there in that space rather than, say, being at a bar or being at a concert or some other kind of event where you're physically having to face someone who could, quote unquote, reject you. So that being said, men often have to swipe much more on the apps and send a lot more messages just to get only a few replies. And that imbalance can leave them questioning their attractiveness or even their worth. And so for guys who are smart, thoughtful, craving real connection, but unsure how to show it, it can just start to feel like a rigged game. Now, for women, it's often the opposite problem. They get tons of matches, too many messages. Some of them are respectful, many of them are not, and not enough that feel meaningful. Like vapid one-word messages like, hey, period, the end, that's it, just hey. or generic greetings like, how's your day going? It can feel like walking through a crowd where everyone wants access, but no one is actually curious about who you are, right? Think about it. Like if someone messages you that looks interesting and you check the message and it just says, hey, or how's your day going? What incentive is there to really reply to that and just have a very surface level exchange that really probably isn't going to go anywhere? So women begin to filter, and they filter fast. They look for red flags, they scan for cliches, and they start thinking about these matches and categories. So maybe like too much gym, or this guy just wants sex. Nice guy, but boring. Or does he have any friends? Well, that's definitely something women look at. If all of your pictures are just you, it's like, okay, does this person have friends? Do they have a social circle? Do they have a network? Do they have family, right? Not because they're shallow. We don't do this because we're shallow. We do it because we're overstimulated, because so much information is coming in. We just gotta get to it and start filtering. So it can become a numbers game, with many men that I know having told me that they just end up swiping right on everyone just to see who matches them back. And then from there, they'll take the next step based on who reciprocated. Now, I call this fishing, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an example. I'm going to paint a picture for you of how this would play out. In this example, we'll call our male participant Josh and our female participant Lucy. Let's say Josh has been on the apps off and on for years. He used to message women that he could genuinely be interested in, but now there are just so many different apps, so many choices, with so little return on the energetic investment, that he's now become a fisherman. What this means is that he casts a wide net by swiping right on every profile, unless it's just a straight up hard no, and then sits back and waits for bites. Once he starts getting a tug on his reel, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, he decides which fish to hook and which to throw back, based solely on the fish who showed interest in his bait. So that's from Josh's side. Now let's meet Lucy. Lucy is also pretty burnt out on using dating apps, but she still believes that apps do work for some couples, so why not her? She's optimistic. She may have a tinge of cynicism, but she's trying. She's trying to be optimistic and hopeful and positive. And Lucy is beautiful. She's smart. She is doing well in her career. She enjoys witty banter, and she does her best to use the apps intentionally. Now, let's say that she matches with Josh, who is seemingly also a great catch, and Lucy's thrilled. But in the time it takes her to decide whether to message him first or to let Josh make the first move, now she's noticing he's not showing up in her matches anymore, and she's like, what happened? Where did he go? Well, what happened is that Josh caught 5 fish in his net, and then that's when he'll actually look at the profiles a little bit more in depth, and based on those 5 fish that he caught, determine who he wants to invest a little bit more energy in. And maybe he deemed Lucy as not his type for one reason or another, and unmatched with her so that he could focus on the other profiles that may have either been more attractive in some way, or maybe just less intimidating. Because you see, this is where that fear of rejection sneaks in again and can override any actual interest or goal attainment that we have. Because Josh may actually be very into Lucy's profile, but he may doubt whether he's good enough for Lucy, and then chooses instead to mitigate that risk of being rejected by her by focusing on a more, quote unquote, gettable prospect. But in Lucy's mind, she didn't even have any opportunity to say the wrong thing or let her dorky side come through, because Josh has already blocked her. So from Lucy's perspective, nothing happened other than they matched and then he ghosted. And that's also really hurtful. So the reason I share this example is to demonstrate how the use of dating apps is complicated, and it brings up feelings of inadequacy and rejection for everyone. Women do not have it easier than men, and men do not have it easier than women. We are all dealing with the same shit when it comes to our feelings of worthiness and rejection, and we come up against those same fears. Okay, not to make this worse, but here's where it gets even a little bit trickier. A lot of the profiles that come up, particularly for men, are not even real. So many apps now are using bots to boost engagement. And you may be messaging with someone who never responds because they never existed. So that's not paranoia. That's part of the actual business model to keep you engaged. It's kind of like catfishing on steroids. Probably safer than real catfishing, because a bot's not going to steal your money or put you in a dangerous situation. Well, I don't know. We're getting too far off on a tangent. But anyway, it's not you. It's the apps. That's the moral here. Now, when you add all this up, the gamification, the imbalance, the bots, the ghosting, dating apps put us in constant evaluation mode. So we judge fast, we present the most polished version of ourselves, aka not authentic, and we feel disposable because we know that we're being judged too. And this does not make us bad people. It makes us human in an environment that's built for speed and not depth. Okay, so here's another layer, and it's a little bit sneaky. It's that instant gratification. So dating apps also give us this hit of excitement when we match with someone. It's like, yes, someone sees me, someone wants me, but that high can wear off pretty fast, especially if it doesn't lead anywhere. So then the brain starts to crave that match more than it craves the meaning behind the match. We get hooked on that rush of being wanted, and then we can get disappointed when it doesn't turn into real intimacy. That constant cycle of anticipation and letdown trains us to expect quick hits of validation and to lose patience for the slower, more grounded pace of actual connection. So this takes us back to that question of relationship readiness, again from last time, in which we talked about if you're beginning to notice this pattern of swiping for that dopamine rush of getting matches, consider whether you're confusing your need for connection with your thirst for validation. Now, to be clear, seeking that hit of validation does not have to be a bad thing. It can be a useful practice, used in moderation. For example, if you're recently out of a relationship and in need of a quick external confidence booster, or maybe you haven't been in the dating world for a while, not necessarily because you have been in a relationship, but maybe you haven't felt the confidence yet to be able to even put yourself out there to begin with. It can be useful just to get your feet wet, dipping your toes in the water and starting to feel that rush of excitement. It can help to spark the desire for putting yourself out there and getting that meaningful connection. But like anything else, you just want to make sure that you're mindful about how you're using this. If you are doing so for that quick external dopamine hit, being mindful about how much time you're spending doing that and also your intention behind it. Now, between all of the emotional impact of the dating apps over time, this can of course lead to burnout from, trying to put yourself out there with nothing to show for it, and then cynicism because you're able to say, well, I'm always on the apps, I'm always swiping, I message people and it's not going anywhere, but you start to feel a little bit cynical about the whole process because coming from that space of burnout and that energetic flavor of which is burnout, having been on it so much and not getting results, then your narrative is that, well, it doesn't work for me. I'm doing everything I can and it doesn't work for me. That's not really going to work either. And then also self-doubt, because then you start to feel like you're the problem. You're the common denominator. Or you might start to feel like, well, women suck or men suck. Nobody wants me and it's their problem. So there's some dangerous ways that this could go potentially. Now, if you're still using the apps, here's what I tell my clients and here's what I'm going to offer you today. You do not have to delete the apps, but you do need to use them in a way that honors your nervous system and your values. So that might mean giving yourself clear time limits for swiping, maybe a 15-minute block a day or, during your morning break and maybe on your commute. If you're on the train, if you have an afternoon break from work, or if you work from home and you schedule in your day just like a little mini break in the afternoon, right? Just plan these little pockets that are dedicated to swiping so that you don't overindulge. Another way that you can give yourself a time kind of limit is by just taking straight up breaks from being on the apps, period. So if you start to notice that you're getting into burnout mode, or you're starting to get cynical, or, feeling like, well, it's everybody else and not me, I'm amazing, I'm perfect. There's such drastic extremes, it can go when you start getting to that place of effort with no results. But if you start noticing that you're getting to that place, take a straight up break from being on the apps for a few months at least. Really let yourself sign off, delete the app from your phone, and I would recommend doing some sort of self-reflection This might be a good time to seek support also, as far as possibly more traditional therapy or working with a coach like myself who can get you back in the right mindset to be ready to approach dating again. And there's a lot of work that we can do around building your confidence, getting clear on what you're looking for, getting clear on the parts of you that you most want to convey, and reshaping your profile around that. So these are just some of the things that I work with my clients on, as well as real-time feedback and connection coaching when you do start interacting with humans. And so these are some things that you can do during that time that you're taking a break from being on the apps. It's a really nice time to reset and recharge and re-strategize for going back to it, because you haven't given up on the idea of finding that real relationship that, again, you have done the work and you realize that you are in fact ready for. You're not giving up on it. You're just needing to recharge, reset, and strategize. Those are a couple time things that we can do when you reach those places of burnout and cynicism and doubt. Also, you could focus on just fewer, more intentional conversations, really not swiping on just anything that looks decent or like might validate you and might actually match with you. Match with people, or swipe right, I guess, on people. You don't know if they match until they match you back, but swipe right on people who you have genuine interest in, right? That's also sending a much clearer message that you're putting out into the universe about what you're looking for. If you just have a full open, we're going to go back to the fishing analogy, a wide net, and you're like, yeah, let's just see what comes back to me, then that's really not sending a clear call out, a clear intention to which what you want can actually be attracted back to you. So be more intentional about who you're swiping right on and with the conversations that you start with those people to show that you genuinely have interest in them. And you can also make your profile more you, less curated, more real, more authentic, more showcasing the parts that you love about yourself. Again, this is something that I work with my clients on. It's one of the stages in my coaching program where we identify those things about yourself that you really love. And again, going back to the Be Your Own Wingman exercise that we talked about in the last episode, starting to make that list and getting really granular about what you love about yourself, what you're proud of. You know, again, some of those accomplishments that maybe you had even early in life, what those say about your character, so that building the profile from a place of genuine confidence and then showcasing those parts of you that are a little bit more unique, right? We want your profile to stand out. So if it's coming from this energy of this person seems like they are genuinely happy, that's really attractive. I shouldn't need to drill that in, but like, it's so attractive when somebody genuinely feels good about themselves and feels good about what they do. And it can show through from the energy that you're putting into it, from that initial space of having the confidence versus, on the other hand, well, I'm just going to put this picture up. I guess it looks good. I've gotten good responses, you know, about this picture in the past, or my friends like it. And, you know, I'm going to say that work in real estate, and that says that I make pretty good money, probably, and I'm pretty active. Like, these are kind of vague, and you don't feel excitement from the person sharing those things. So when you do that Be Your Own Wingman exercise, then go through and look at the things that stand out and make you really shine, that somebody might be interested in, and maybe even the things that are quirky and unique, so that you're more likely to find someone who is quirky and unique also, right? So put more investment into making your profile just more authentic and more really you. And then remember also that your worth has nothing to do with your match rate. Again, whether you match with someone or not, because of the whole fishing thing, that can tend to be more about the other person than about you. So don't let whether or not people match with you dictate how you feel about yourself. So if you're ready to meet someone outside the apps, you might try this. So go to places where the kind of people that you'd want to date might hang out. And you've probably heard this before, but go to the places where your people might be, and go there without any expectation or pressure to meet someone romantically. Join something, you know, like a group, attend something, concert or a networking event, volunteer, take up space, just be open, right? There are meetup groups for just about any interest or hobby that you can think of. They have both in virtual and in-person opportunities to connect. There's activity groups, there's like hiking, there's rowing, there's travel groups, there's networking events for people in certain industries, there's book clubs, there are trivia nights. There's so many different things. I actually even host a free monthly meetup for men to ask questions related to their unique dating and relationship challenges. So if you're a man who has been struggling in this area, I really want to support you. This podcast is for both men and women and anyone in between who is, working through the challenges of their gender role conditioning in order to really connect on deeper levels with people that they're romantically interested in or not. Right? It's all about connection, and that's universal. But I do specialize in working one-on-one with men. And so I do host a free monthly meetup that is for men who are in their 20s to 30s and maybe missing that confidence to put themselves out there to just ask questions. Or maybe you're putting yourself out there and just not getting a lot back and you're feeling stuck, or you're actually taking people on dates and that's where you're getting stuck, right? So if this sounds like it applies to you and you have questions, come join the meetup. I'll share that in the show notes. I'll see you virtually. This is for anybody, anywhere, and just ask the question. And I'm happy to give some free feedback and hopefully help to move the needle a little bit. So those are some ideas for things that you can do to, get out there and potentially meet people who might have the same interests that you have, or at least network. And even if they tend to be men's groups or women's groups, you're still expanding your circle where you can potentially connect with somebody platonically. And once you connect on a little bit deeper level, then maybe you can share, hey, I'm looking for a relationship. I'm interested in dating. I'm interested in putting myself out there. This is what I'm looking for. Do you know anybody? Do you have any friends that, might be a good match, right? Networking is never a bad idea because it expands your social circle. So meeting people in person, yes, it is slower. It is scarier, but that's where connection happens. It happens when people feel safe enough to see and be seen. And the dating apps just aren't built for that, but you are. So if you're looking for more meaningful connection, I do want to offer you a few app options that tend to support that goal better than others. So the first one is Hinge. It's designed to encourage conversation and highlight your real personality. This is my personal favorite. It's where I actually met my beloved, and I personally know of 2 other couples that this has worked for. So Hinge, their motto is, it's the app designed to be deleted. And that was the experience I had. I have, again, 2 other couple friends that I know who had the same experience. Hinge does work. It is more intentional. And I don't know the data on their model, but because I know that it has worked, it doesn't seem to be more invested in your engagement than actual connection. So I really recommend Hinge. OkCupid, it's kind of an OG. I used to be on OkCupid before there were apps. I was on the actual website, again, dating myself, but this is great for people who want compatibility questions to matter. Another one that I really like if you are super intentional and how would I describe it? So the app is Meet Mindful, and that's a really good one for people who are dating intentionally. And I would say maybe are more, I guess, spiritual. It's not faith-based by any means, but just, I don't know necessarily how I would describe it. I guess I won't be one of their advertisers. But I had a really good experience with that also. I met people on there who are also very intentional and have depth of character in the conversations. There's just, I guess I would say it just attracts a caliber of people who really are legitimately interested in matching with somebody on more meaningful levels than surface. And there is another one that I just learned about. I really don't know anything about it, so I can't vouch for it, but it's called Field. And this is for folks who want to explore alternative relationship styles with clarity and honesty. So if alternative relationships are something that you're more interested in, you might check that out. Now, the key here is that it's not just the app, it's how you use it. So again, set some time limits so that the app does not become your emotional crutch, and make sure to lead with authenticity in your profile and let people really see you, and message fewer people, but do so more intentionally. And again, just don't mistake matches for momentum. Focus on the humans and not the hits. Dating apps, remember, they are just tools, but your nervous system was not designed for thousands of micro interactions with strangers. So if you're feeling discouraged, burned out, or just a little bit jaded, you are not alone, and it is not because you're doing it wrong. It's because the system is not designed to support the depth that you are craving. But the good news is you don't need to rely on an app to meet someone meaningful. You can, remember, go where your people are, the social spaces, events, interest groups, meetups. Let your friends know that you're open to being set up, and practice presence, vulnerability, and conversation off screen. Because connection does not start with a swipe. It starts with getting comfortable being seen. And for that, you don't need a perfect profile. You just need a moment of honesty with yourself and with the next person you meet. So if you are out there swiping, matching, hoping, deleting, re-downloading, and repeating, just know that you're not alone. You are navigating a system that was not built for your soul. Be gentle with yourself, and please be a little bit kinder to the strangers on the other side of the screen, because they're tired too. Protect your energy, my friends. And just in closing, if you're a single success-minded man in your 30s who is ready to match intentionally, but you're feeling stuck in the same patterns or not quite ready to be visible, then I'm inviting you to join my free monthly meetup, which is free dating advice for men from a woman, where I answer your questions related to dating approach, owning your worth, navigating #MeToo concerns, updating your profile, interpreting the mysterious female response, and anything else that you're curious about. So this is your opportunity to ask that random question that you don't feel comfortable asking your buddies. So don't pass it up. I will post the information in the show notes below. And then for those of you who would like a more hands-on approach to optimizing your dating brain, attracting your ideal match, and getting more high-quality dates in less time, I invite you to schedule a complimentary kickoff call where we will determine what's in your way of that relationship you're seeking, and we'll strategize an action plan to achieve it. So again, check out the show notes below for more information on both of those opportunities to connect. Thanks so much for listening to Stripped, where we all have patterns and we learn how to drop them together. Stay curious and stay kind. Bye for now.